but we're going to start with NWSL games because I would imagine that a ton of our viewers who are tuning in right now are tuning in after concluding their weekend of soccer with NWSL games. So let's go through the full weekend results, Lisa. Let's let everybody know what they missed.
There was a lot that was happening in the NWSL. I'm going to go chronologically. So it started Friday night, 7:30, North Carolina versus Washington Spirit. This game was in North Carolina. It ends in a 3-3 tie in this match. Rodman gets a brace. Diana Ordonez gets a break. There was a penalty kick in this one. It was honestly nuts. This game was nuts. For any of these games, we have the highlights on our YouTube page, so go watch them all, full extended highlights. It's fantastic. But Rodman scores in the 42nd minute, and this is after a lightning delay. So there was an hour lightning delay that happened in about the 24th minute of this game, which really throws off the mojo, the warm-ups, everything. Fans stuck around. They stuck it out in North Carolina. So Rodman gets on the board first for Washington Spirit, 42nd minute. Brittany Radcliffe then equalizes in the 45th minute. Then in the stoppage time, Washington gets another one. Tara McKeown she gets another one, 2-1 heading into halftime for Washington. Second half, though, it was a lot of North Carolina on the board. Diana Ordonez, 53rd minutes, equalizes it again. It's now 2-2 at this point. Trinity Rodman gets her second on the night just 3 minutes later in this match. So it was so much back and forth and back and forth. And then Ordonez gets her second one to equalize again, ending this one in 3-3. But Washington, they went with a 3-back in this match. They had O'Hara, Staub, Brooks. There was the penalty kick that was maybe a little bit questionable. I wasn't entirely sure on this call. Go back and watch the highlights because it was a little questionable on this one. But Washington ends with another draw. This is their 8th. They have still not won a game since the opening weekend in the regular season. This game was fantastic and crazy. When we look at our picks, I had Washington, you had North Carolina. So we're both losers in this one because it was a draw.
Love to be a loser with you, pal. I could not help but think of that. I was like, this is so funny the way this is playing out, considering the picks, that we each made going into the preview of this match in particular. But kind of also perhaps not too surprising going into this match. We're going to give a standings rundown as well in this episode if you're joining us. But going into this match, we talked a little bit about that. Like July's closing out now with this weekend. Let's talk. We're going to talk about how teams did in this particular month of soccer. And you had the Spirit and the Courage kind of in a little bit of a wooden spoon battle. In this one, you're talking about last place for the Courage. At the time, Spirit was almost in last place. So you're wondering how it was going to look out. And you went with the Spirit. And for the sake of parity, I was like, let me go with the Courage. What were we going to see from these two teams who have played each other so much already this year and sort of coming into this match with needing that sort of sense of urgency? I mean, you cannot really let any points slip at this point if you are in the position that they are in, which is way low at the bottom of the second half of the table right now. So you throw in something like weather and lightning delays. Maybe the writing was on the wall here a little bit that this one was gonna end up in this type of scoreline, but it definitely was, perhaps the game that maybe set in motion some of the other teams that we saw this weekend, Lisa, because they weren't the only ones playing on Friday.
They were not, and you're exactly right. Set in motion. Perhaps not this game, though. Portland Thorns versus Racing Louisville. We both had Portland taking the win in this one in our pregame predictions, and that was correct. Portland sneaks out a 2-1 win over Racing Louisville. The scoring starts early by Sophia Smith, 7th minute for Portland Thorns. She gets on the board. What an angle, because there wasn't any. And somehow Smith finds the side netting, gets in the back of the net. And then it's the Australian international for Racing Louisville, Chidiac, who gets the equalizer in the 29th minute. Racing Louisville and Portland head into halftime 1-1. It's a late 74th minute game-winning goal from Portland Thorns. It's a shot from outside the box, and Sugita ends up following up on it. It's a great save by Katie Lund, but it just lands at the feet of Hina Sugita for Portland Thorns. She gets the game winner in the 74th minute, and that put Portland at the top of the standings for about 24 hours at this point, because that game was Friday, 8 o'clock Eastern. And before you knew it, the standings would change when the Saturday matches rolled around. But this one a little bit predicted in terms of us and our predictions, with Portland taking the win in this one. But to see Racing Louisville get on the board, get that equalizer before halftime, kind of set the game in motion. There was a lot of fireworks throughout the weekend. Maybe this game didn't have as many crazy goal scoring opportunities. There was a couple great looks from both sides, though, but at the end of it all, Sophia Smith is the catalyst that starts it for Portland Thorns, and who else but Sugita to end it all for the Thorns.
I think that was one of the things that maybe stood out a little bit the most.
CHID.
Well, hello. Stood out a little bit the most for people who are watching this particular game. Somebody like Sophia Smith making her return to play after coming off of the CONCACAF W Championship and making her impact immediately, like not skipping a beat in terms of who she is to this Portland Thorns side in terms of their attack. And quite frankly, Sugita being the player to kind of be the one to sort of get this, not just a goal, but this sort of follow-up that sort of came through with the chaos that was created in the box. We talked about that in the preview a little bit, how the return of some of these international players who departed for certain international competitions this month coming back, it might be a little bit of a seamless transition because of how Portland's depth kind of continued to carry them through this month of July. And we saw them do it again once more in this game against Racing Louisville. And again, two games for Friday, the doubleheader, maybe setting the tone. We should always pay attention to those early games that kind of kick off the next match week, because something in the water, sometimes it gets a little contagious in terms of the chaotic energy that can be found within an NWSL match. But something cool.
No penalty kick in this Racing Louisville Portland Thorns game, which was a theme throughout the weekend.
Foreshadowing, maybe. Who knows? We're gonna talk about those in a little bit. Saturday rolled around, another doubleheader of matches taking place. A cool thing that happened in NWSL this weekend is made its debut in Soldier Field. The Chicago Red Stars welcomed San Diego Wave FC, participating in a double header between MLS sides Chicago Fire and Atlanta. And it was a 1-0 victory for San Diego Wave. It was the Chicago Red Stars' first loss at home this season, which is interesting because it's like a technicality here, because what didn't happen at Bridgeview, it happened at Soldier Field. And Jaden Shaw, a little bit of history, earned her first goal in her NWSL debut. 17-year-old getting on the scoreboard, the lone goal for San Diego Wave in this one. Disappointing, I think, if you're on the Chicago side of things, and maybe for us, Lisa, because I know we made the picks, and I believe we both chose Chicago in this one. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
We both had Chicago taking this win.
We were going with the pool, the hometown pool, I think, a little bit. And there was an opportunity, or opportunities, I should really say, for Chicago in this match to be able to try to squeak out a result. Didn't think the play was poor by any means. I mean, if you're even going back and looking at the number, I mean, the numbers of this match, you see Chicago coming out with a ton of shots. They had massive amounts that were blocked, just like really great lockdown stuff from San Diego there. Even at late in the game, getting an opportunity for a penalty kick scenario that came into play, and was a little curious as I was at this game covering it from the press box, and I was wondering who was going to step up and take this penalty. And I gotta say, Lisa, I was a little surprised that it was Mallory Pugh, and as she attempted to make the equalizer, it was read by Sheridan all the way, saved, and that was enough, quite frankly, for the Wave.
So who would you're surprised that Pugh took it,
yeah,
who would you have wanted to take it?
Vanessa DiBernardo, hands down. I think, listen, in those scenarios, when you have your player, your most prolific goal scorer for the team, and they kind of say, hey, I'm taking it, you're going to probably say, okay, and let that striker take it. But you've also got to think you're coming off of an international competition where Sheridan probably spent weeks and weeks studying United States opposition, and that included somebody like Mallory Pugh, who favors the right, and that ended up what sort of kind of coming into play, leaning a little bit more left, but taking it with the right foot, I believe. And it was, you have a goalkeeper like Sheridan who's having a wonderful 2022 season as well. Just go ahead and read that the entire way and make the stop. So I was a little curious because perhaps a little gamemanship on Chicago's part. DiBernardo was at the point at a period of time there before Mallory Pugh was the one who ended up taking it. But that's soccer sometimes, and Chicago unable to take advantage of the player advantage that they had as well during this time. It just wasn't their night.
Yeah, and that goal coming in the 27th minute. So still like a lot of soccer left to play. And the penalty kick in the very, very end of this game, 82nd minute, a chance for Chicago to equalize it. And we talked so much about in our preview at this game, there were so many emotions because Chicago hadn't lost at home up until this point. It was a doubleheader with Chicago Fire. It was being played at Soldier Field. And there was also an announcement made on Friday that midfielder Alyssa Motts was set to retire, which sets a whole nother wave of emotions throughout the team.
Yeah.
Retiring, set to retire, going to coach. Did you get to talk to any of the players about that in the post game, about her retiring and kind of how that takes a toll on this team and kind of how the game was set at that point?
You know, it's life comes at you fast, right? Kind of energy a little bit. The team announced that Motts was going to be retiring, and it was about 24 hours or so ahead of the Soldier Field match. And it turns out that she's got a really cool position coming up as assistant coach for Texas A&M. So returning back to her alma mater and gonna do some cool things out there, I imagine. But in the post game, yes, we chatted with head coach Chris Petroselli. Vanessa DiBernardo was also there as well, alongside Alyssa Motts. And Motts has been a player who's been with the Chicago franchise since, quite frankly, before their NWSL days. And it was really nice to sort of see the pregame ceremonies. They presented her with a jersey, tried to honoring her a little bit with all of her caps, 143 caps for one club. And I think we're in a certain era of NWSL now where the concept, like just the concept of a player staying with one club for over a decade, quite frankly, is a little baffling. I don't know if we're going to see that ever again, quite frankly. You're talking about a kind of franchise that was storied into the NWSL, and you're talking a decade plus with Alyssa Motts representing a specific franchise. So it was an emotional postgame. We heard from Motts, and she had nothing but gratitude for the Chicago Red Stars franchise, and was really excited about the youth on the team. Asked her a little bit about where she would like to see the team go, and she wants to see them continue to sort of maintain that kind of, gritty blue collar culture that they've always kind of claimed as their own, and kind of keep these young players who are putting together good performances and sort of keep that going through the future. And Vanessa DiBernardo was very kind to be vulnerable in the post game and express some emotion about Motts' retirement, just sort of saying that the two of them have played together for a very long time, that the two of them have been through a lot together, but Motts specifically a player who she said ultimately truly defined what it meant to be a Red Star, suffering 2 ACL injuries, then coming back, went through, the unfortunate passing of her mother. So a lot that she went through as an adult with the Red Stars. So she will be missed. A player that was often relied upon in those moments where they were looking for that very experienced player. She was someone that was trusted and tasked with playing alongside Sam Kerr. They're like, who can play alongside Sam Kerr? Alyssa Motts. So yeah, very important player in Red Stars history, but on to some really cool things. So not the way they wanted to close things out, but hopefully maybe this will be a turning point for the team in the future.
Yeah, definitely a tough loss for Chicago at that one, and with all the emotions heading into it. But that meant that San Diego Wave was back at the top of the
Back at the
standings
top of the standings. I
after
was I was curious about it. I said, are we going to continue to see this shift all weekend? And we knew that there was going to be some NWSL after dark action. There was going to be Angel City versus OL Reign. And let me tell you, I was really excited about it because I said, you know what? The cool thing is about being able to get home at a late hour after watching a Red Sox game is there's still NWSL action to watch. So being able to watch Angel City versus OL Reign and sort of watching Angel City kind of do what they did. Lisa, again, please remind the folks for the picks on this one. I think this one we were split, right?
You had a draw for this one, and I had OL
And
Reign.
you had OL Reign. So I said, I'm gonna save my draw for this one. And I gotta say, watching this game develop in real time, I was like, oh man, I was so wise to sort of choose my draw and save it for this one. 2-0 at halftime for Angel City, who are playing at home to a sold out stadium. The bank has become very quickly a difficult place to play in, but Olarin not intimidated by that, not one bit. A complete second half surge, starting with who else leading the way? Jess Fishlock, banger. Sofia Huerta, banger. Tobin Heath, welcome back officially. Game winner, chaotic. You love to see it.
Incredibly chaotic. You said it. Banger from Fishlock, banger from Huerta, banger from Heath. It was a second half full of OL Reign dominating this match at the bank. Tobin Heath, a late substitute for Laura Harvey's side. She's subbed on in the 84th minute, and she gets this goal just 5 minutes later, the game winner at the end of it. Which a lot of emotions on that, but huge for Heath to be back. I know a lot of fans in the NWSL are so psyched to see that. I am psyched to see her back on the pitch, getting consistent minutes, hopefully building those up more and more. But the goal from Sofia Huerta, this player for Sofia Huerta is just so impressive because she can do it all. We saw her do this early in the year. Remember, for OL Reign, she ripped a shot from outside the box, and it was like, wow, Huerta, great stuff. That was great technique. Let's keep it rolling. And then she kind of fell into her typical job duties as a wing back, as an outside back for Laura Harvey, defending, sending crosses in, getting up the flank. And now we're seeing it again. Perhaps it's a little bit of that national team rub. We talk about it a lot. And I think with the return of all these internationals back this weekend in the NWSL, that's exactly what it was. It was them coming off of this high of playing with their national teams, whether it's they won or they scored goals or they got their first caps or more caps. We continue to see that development of these players. And Sofia Huerta is one that proves she has no ceiling.
I loved this matchup and sort of seeing how it shook out towards the end. In the preview, we talked about how this was a matchup to keep an eye on because you're probably looking at an OL Reign side that is trying to gain a little bit of cushion in the standings into the upper half, and Angel City, who are obviously going to try to continue to keep pace. So very interesting to sort of see another set of teams with a lot of familiarity between each other going back to the Challenge Cup, playing out to this sort of wild result.
With 2 penalty kicks as well in this one. 2 penalty kicks. The first
had
one,
everything.
Pascal knocks it down for the second goal for Angel City. And then in the first half, Kim Little, she had
Saturday night had everything.
Missed it. Well, saved, frankly.
Yeah.
But it could have been 2-1 heading into the halftime, but Laura Harvey's side not able to capitalize on that PK.
Look, they got the dub though. I'm sure they're just like, look, we got it. We got the points. We got a little bit more cushion between us in this upper half of the table. I'm sure they're thrilled with that, and being able to play in that type of environment players get up for that, coaches get up for that. It was really, really cool to see. But Saturday night really did have everything: red cards, penalty kicks, missed save penalty kicks, ton of goals. I loved it. Maybe setting the stage again once more for Sunday. We had a couple matches to close out: Kansas City versus Orlando Pride. That one is shaking out to a 2-2 draw. We had Orlando making some noise early in this one. Celia in the 25th minute, giving Orlando a 1-0 lead, but it was short-lived, quite frankly. The second half, again, the surge providing a lot of entertainment in this one, Lisa.
It definitely was. Between this one, we both had Kansas City taking the win. And I remember our predictions as I was watching this match unfold. And I was honestly surprised at how Orlando was able to get on the board, especially early on. I think everyone on the pitch, maybe except Thelia, who scored that opening goal for Orlando, was confused at kind of how it happened and how it unfolded. There was a bit of a jumble up in the box. AD Franch for Kansas City goalkeeper going down. Kansas City trying to clear it out, not able to do so. And it kind of finds the back of the net. So before you know it, Orlando's up 1-0. It's this beautiful header from Thelia, and Kansas City is now on their heels. But we didn't see traditional starters like Bennett for Kansas City. We didn't see Kristen Edmonds in the back line. She was out due to COVID protocol, Edmonds. So a little bit of shifting happening defensively for Matt Potter's side, which I think opened up some holes for Orlando that they were really able to capitalize on. But a lot of cards in this one, 6 yellow cards in this one. Megan Montefusco, she ends up with her 5th yellow card. So she'll be out for the next match for Orlando after this one. But a lot of late chaos at the end for Kansas City because they're down 2-0 in the 46th minute to Orlando Pride, and Elise Bennett subs onto the pitch at halftime, and she gets the first goal in the 57th minute, and then the late equalizer by CC Kaiser. What a trade for Kaiser for Kansas City. She has proven to do so well for this Kansas City side, and they end up splitting the points at the end of it all.
I love it. I love more chaos, right? Fleshing out from from what we saw on the night before. I gotta say, I think if you love that type of performance where you can come, down, come from behind, and sort of, squeak out a result. But I think if you're Kansas City, you want to start getting more defined results against NWSL sides like Orlando Pride. It's not unfair in professional sports to have a team look themselves in the mirror and say, "Hey, we're on a streak right now. We're playing really well on the pitch. We're sitting in the upper half of the table. We've got a bottom half table team coming in. We need to take care of business." And they didn't, in my opinion, really take care of all the business. They got a point in this one, and they are still sitting in a good place right now in the standings. But you don't want to let those points slip, I think, against those types of oppositions. It was great to see Bennett come out and give the spark. I love the way she is playing in her rookie season. She's out there looking fearless, and immediately was part of the catalyst that helped kind of turn things around. I thought it was exciting game. I think if you're a neutral, bummer for us for picking Kansas City and not getting the picks on that one. But
positives from Elise Bennett in everything you just said, but the fact that she can start a game and score goals and contribute, but she can also do that off the bench, which is just a good player. Like, that's who you want on your team. And Matt Potter's got to be happy about that, because no matter where he puts her, she knows that she's going to work hard. She works really well with Kristen Hamilton. Her relationship with CC Kaiser is developing very well. Haley Mace as well. That relationship is constantly growing. And to have a rookie that can do it in a variety of ways, in a variety of situations, like Bennett can, it's really a bright future for Bennett and for Kansas City if they can keep it up, get a little bit more consistency in that sense, but they continue their unbeaten streak with this tie with Orlando.
Houston putting together a bit of a streak of their own. We're gonna close things out with them because they had another 4-goal game, this time against New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC. This one ends with 6 goals, 4-2 between the two sides. Honestly, wild from start to finish. Houston Dash, though, watch out.
Holy cow. So we started the weekend on Friday with 6 goals between Washington and North Carolina. We end the weekend Sunday with the first game, 6 goals again. Houston dominant over Gotham in this game. Our picks for this one, Houston. We both had Houston taking the win, but it started off hot for Gotham with Paige Monahan opening the scoring for Gotham and for the game in the 4th minute. I was a little thrown off by this in the sense that I wasn't ready for Gotham to start a game that hot. We've seen Houston do it at times, and to see Gotham do this and to see them come out on this hot stretch, playing at home at Red Bull Arena, knowing how hot it is in Jersey right now. Then there was an own goal by Mandy Freeman for Gotham, so it gave Houston the equalizer in the 18th minute, and then Shea Groom for Houston able to get on the board again with the 3rd of the first half for Houston. That was a great header by Shea Groom, and ultimately another penalty kick in this match. It's nailed down by Houston, and a late goal by Margaret Purse for Gotham in the 82nd minute, but it's just too little too late for Gotham as they only get 2, which frankly for Gotham is great that they're getting multi-goals, but when you're conceding 4 against a team like Houston, it's just not enough. But Gotham, they're struggling. They're really struggling.
That's tough. That's tough when that's the silver lining, Lisa. That one I'm gonna bring back TUFF. That is too ugly for feedback. That's tough when the silver lining in that is like, hey, you scored a couple goals and you lost by 4, more. It's a tough thing to talk about. I just I think you hit the nail right on the head that you're a little unprepared for Gotham to start that hot in this when you're talking opening 5 minutes, getting a goal. But Houston doing a lot in their attack, and just watching this kind of unfold, knowing that they don't even have Rachel Daly back yet from international duty. This is, I love the way these goals happened as well too. You're talking about forcing an own goal to sort of get the equalizer. You're talking about Groom getting on the scoreboard, Sophie Schmidt, the veteran, getting a banger of her own, Ebony Salmon getting the penalty kick, converting that. I love the way in which these goals sort of ended up developing for Houston over the duration of this match. Maria Sanchez with an excellent game on the wing once more for them, providing the assist on the Groom goal, creating chaos and winning a penalty in the box. It's very cool to see, and it's also a little bit scary knowing that they're going to be getting back Rachel Daly.
Yeah, yes, and especially because Ebony Salmon had a fantastic game. She's coming off a hat trick game, and a lot of times a player can kind of fall off the cliff at that point for at least the next game, right? There's a lot of pressure. Can they continue performing? And Houston does it again with another 4-goal game, and with Salmon, who had a number of opportunities. She probably could have had 2 in this one, missing them. Some great saves on the other end by Ashlyn Harris in goal for Gotham, but she ends up converting the penalty kick, and that's who you want stepping up and taking that penalty kick. The young 21-year-old who can do that and have the confidence to own it. Is this Houston side, they might be turning around in the second half of the season. They're making a push for the top of the standings for sure.